Hello, I am Michael Marsh. Welcome to the program dedicated to reestablishing constitutional government, first in Oregon and then in the United States. The Constitution's on the books, but you need people in office that actually honor their oath to uphold that Constitution, which they all do when that first day when they're sworn in. They take that oath, every one of them. Although some of them say they believe in the Constitution, but I'm wondering what Constitution it is they're talking about. So with that in mind, I have Mike Nearman, who is the state representative, House District 23 in Polk County. And so far, at least, he's been upholding the Constitution. And we will talk more about that later in the program. But first, we have an election coming up, and the safety measure on the ballot for Polk County, for those of you that live in West Salem and outskirts of West Salem. Mike, tell us about this levy. Is it a good thing, bad thing, indifferent, or?
Well, Mike, this they call it a public safety levy, but they can call it whatever they want. I mean, that's where they choose to not spend their money is on public safety, and so it's the same as with everything else. Is in the end, it's public safety or the kids or seniors or whatever, something like that. They never seem to have like an administration levy or anything like that, you know, where they're going to pay the salaries of the commissioners or anything like that. So I think this is an example of government just not putting the resources where they need to be, and there's several leaky spots. One of them is the county administrator makes $138,000 a year. So you have 3 county commissioners that make $70,000 each to do their job full time per year, and then they don't do their job. They hire a guy and pay him $138,000 a year to do their job. There's the sheriff has sheriff's deputies manning the jail when corrections technicians could do that job for a lot cheaper. So there's they always say they've cut everywhere and all that kind of stuff, and they haven't. And it's really, you know, and times are tough. I acknowledge that, but you know, it's a question of are we going to do big government and just government doesn't have to tighten their belt and just gets to squeal and ask for more money, or are we going to say no, government needs to live within its means? And so I'm supporting a no vote on the I call it the tax levy. They call it the public safety levy, but they get to title the thing, and they're, like I said, they're not calling it the administration levy or anything like that. So. And
have they ever justified having that administrator when considering that the county commissioners themselves are paid quite well, $70,000 a year? Why do they need it? Or at least, you know, if they want have somebody coordinated, why that much?
Well, yeah, I question that myself, and I don't get a satisfactory answer back, you know. So I have problems with the way that the counties run. If public safety truly is a priority, then they need to let go of some of those positions and for the time being. One of the other things is that they say, oh, they don't have any more money, so they're putting out this levy that's expected to raise about $23 million a year, but then they're getting about $640,000 in the first year in increased revenue from just the fact that the housing market has recovered a little bit. And then they're getting another just under $1 million from the federal government for the payments in lieu of timber. And so that adds up to a little bit over $15 million. And so you're over halfway there. And so I think at this point I would say they have enough money to put some sheriff's deputies on the road, and they should just do that and not have the levy.
And speaking of sheriff's deputies on the road, okay, do they actually need, well, I guess it's the sheriff's department that runs the sheriff, the jail. It is the county jail, right. And the sheriff's in charge of it. But you mentioned they could have people that are paid less. Or
right.
How would that work?
Well, and I've talked with Sheriff Wolf about this. In Polk County, it takes 5 people on shift to run the jail there. He says that he needs to have a couple of them that are uniformed officers in case a fight breaks out or something like that. He also says he needs to have a couple more that are uniformed officers that in case he needs to take prisoners over to the court or something like that. And I question how often that happens, so how necessary that really is. But even if I give him, say, 2 uniform officers, 2 out of 5, and then the other 3 were turned into corrections technicians, then the corrections technicians cost about 3/4 of what a sheriff's deputy does. And so for every 4 sheriff's deputies that I turn into corrections technicians, I get a free sheriff's deputy, and then I can put him on the road for patrol. So, and I've confronted the sheriff and the county commissioners on that, and they don't seem to have a satisfactory answer as to why every single person in the jail is a sheriff's deputy, with the exception of one. They had one corrections technician still in the jail. I think they had to hold him over because he had some lawsuit or something like that against the county, and he had to do that. But they can do a better job of sharpening their pencil. That doesn't impress me. It's part of the larger picture, though, too, about how government needs to effectively provide services and efficiently provide services, and when they don't get to just go shake down the taxpayers. And so it upsets me, the whole issue.
Yeah. Now, as a state representative, I know, okay, you mentioned the federal government gives Polk County money instead of letting them harvest the timber like they used to. How solid is that income?
Oh, from year to year, it's not very solid, although every year we've gotten something, and it's gone down. It was at a high of $2.4 million in 2008, and it's gone down, so it's less than $1 million now. The county wisely budgets 0 for that amount every year, but then they always get some money, so it's not stable. And then, I mean, it's no secret that I think everyone in Polk County, including me, including the commissioners, would prefer to just cut down some trees and get back to that. So, I mean, I don't think having a county be on federal welfare is a ideal situation, but we do have the money coming, so it will come in this year. And next year, we'll see what happens. The economy may improve, and the revenues from just general property tax collections could be up, so we could solve the problem that way. But if they pass this levy, it's a 3-year levy, and so they'll be taking money out of my wallet for the next 3 years, regardless of what the economy does.
Yeah. Now, the federal government has taken, they're claiming it, but it's actually Oregon's land. And, you know, Oregon, way back when, I think it was under Teddy Roosevelt, said, yeah, you can have this land, you know, because you want to make parks and national wildlife stuff and everything, have a scenic routes and all that. But it's still, you know, Oregon's land. The federal government is really a tenant. You know, we're the landlord, and the federal government appears more and more to be a deadbeat tenant.
or a deadbeat landlord. I mean, actually, I'll take the opposite. I'll say that the federal government is actually the landlord. The federal government owns 53% of the land mass of the state of Oregon, and I don't think they do a very effective job of running it. You know, I've read places where the federal government is just so mired down in bureaucracy and 3,000 miles away, and so I think that there's something to be said about that's the reason why we have such a fire problem in Oregon, is because we have a paralyzed federal government that won't run the land the way that it needs to be run, including responsible timber harvest. So I think you're on to part of the problem there, and so we need to solve that.
So I know some people are saying, you know, maybe we should take our land back and, you know, tell the feds, get off of our property. They're no longer wanted there. Is there any desire by the legislature to do this?
Well, I think there is a resolution to do that, although that doesn't really have any teeth. That's just kind of shaking our fist at Washington, D.C. But, I mean, there's some things going on. There's The miners in Southern Oregon are having a little spat with the BLM, and some of those kinds of things it's positive to be letting the federal government know what we think of them. So I don't think we're out ready to get the pitchforks out yet, but that day may come someday. But we'll see. We need to keep letting our needs be known and keep letting our priorities be known.
Yeah. Now, we have a U.S. Senator, Ron Wyden. Maybe I'm misunderstanding his positions. I've noticed that it appears to me, okay, like he'll say, okay, we got to get this money for Oregon, to make up for this timber and all that. And then he'll say, but we need to take more possession of more land. Now, am I wrong, or, okay, when he's asking for money for us, he loses, and he gets defeated. When he wants to take from us, he wins. Is this a coincidence, or?
Yeah. Well, or So what I see right now. So back in the days when we were cutting timber, so okay, you can just the federal government would have timber leases. They would lease out and they'd log it, and then it would grow back, whatever, something. Then we had the spotted owl, and then they'd be all the lawsuits, and so you'd have a timber sale, and then the sale would go into a lawsuit, and then they would shut down the timber sale there, everything. And now what Wyden is proposing is to say, well, I'll tell you what, we'll take half the land and say you can never log this half of the land, and then the other half of the land you can log it. But you can't really log it, because the minute you try to do a timber sale on that half of the land, then they're going to have a lawsuit about marbled murrelet or spotted owl or something like that, and they'll shut down that. So he's kind of really taking the playing field and chopping it in half, and I don't think that's the right thing to do there. I think we need to. The science isn't all that accurate on the spotted owl and all that. So I think we need to go revisit some of that. That the spotted owl is declining due to habitat. They're finding that the spotted owl is declining due to competing species. So.
No, and competing species, but they live on field mice and stuff like that. And the federal government just before they became endangered, did a road side, try to get rid of, by spraying chemicals that would kill off their food supply. Oh, no, yeah. And then they say, oh, they're endangered. Yeah, no fool.
So the federal government causes the problem, then the federal government comes in and fixes the problem and makes it worse. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Thank you, federal government. Been a couple of interesting votes the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
One was to use a parent's insurance to pay for underage girls to have an abortion, and the parents aren't to be told about it. Did I misunderstand that bill, or is that basically what's
You're
happening?
right. So if you have someone who's a minor child who's on the using the healthcare policy of their parents or whoever they're using it, is they can request that the description of the services not be provided to the person who holds the policy. So that's problematic in a lot of ways. I think to your point, I think it's targeting young women that are having abortions and wanting to keep that from their parents, which I think that's problematic. I think we need to have more communication between parents and children, and not all families are perfect, but I think that if we're going to just in a blanket way give kids a way to keep something from their parents, that I think in most cases that's not going to be a good development. There's other smaller things too of just kids don't want to know that they have some sort of condition or something like that would keep them out of sports or something. So there's other things, but I think just in general we need kids with an open line of communication to their parents, and if the kid's getting medical services, I think it's appropriate and healthy that the parents know about what those medical services are.
Yeah, I agree. And then, of course, as we're taping this, yesterday there was a longer than usual floor session I want to tell us about that.
Yeah. So yesterday, Senate Bill 941 passed out of the House with on a 32 to 28 vote. It was a bipartisan no vote on that one. We had a few Democrats that voted with the Republicans, 3 to be exact, and we have a bill that I think was just it was the Democrats' gift to the out-of-state Michael Bloomberg, every town, the Moms Demand Action lobbyist faction. It's a bill that's not going to really do anything positive. It's not going to stop any criminal from getting a gun or anything like that. And what it is going to do is it's going to turn lawful gun owners into felons, is what it's going to do, and that's disturbing, you know. So it's
now some people, and I fall into this category. Maybe I'm just being paranoid, but this bill appears to be a universal background check for the goal, the purpose of the government wants to know where every gun is.
Right, a gun registry is what you're saying, and I think that's one of the fears. I think it's a well-founded fear on that. That came up in some of the floor debate too. Is that the retention times for that information? You know, the one question, and this was brought up to me by Kevin Starrett of Oregon Firearm Federation, was that why does the government need to know the make, model, caliber, and serial number of the gun, right? Yeah. So if a background check is warranted and I'm going to buy a gun, they need to know about me, and they need to know if I have mental health issues, serious mental health issues, or if I'm a felon, or if I'm have a judicial order against me or something like that, in order for me to be able to buy that gun. If that's what the background check is really all about. And it doesn't matter what gun I'm buying or what the caliber or the serial number is or anything like that. So why are they asking for that in the background check of me? So that's an interesting question there. To say, it's one thing to say we need to do a background check on Mike Nearman. It's another thing to say we need to do a background check on Mike Nearman, and by the way, send us all the information about the gun, because we want to know that too. So it's things like that make you wonder if that's what they're really trying to do, is create a registry.
Yeah, and I'm suspecting that this went through with a emergency clause?
Yes, it did. Yeah, and actually, that was something that I brought up actually twice on the floor. There is it's funny. So the emergency clause means that it's an emergency and that the bill takes effect right away. And more significantly, the citizens of Oregon can't do a referendum on it there. Now, kind of what's funny on this bill is it had an emergency clause on it, but it also said that the bill does not become operative for, I think it's 128 days, 120 days until after it's signed by the governor. So if it's such an emergency and needs to go into effect right away, why doesn't it go into effect right away? Why do you wait the 120 days? And if you don't need it to go into effect right away, why do you have the emergency clause on there, other than to keep the citizens from getting the clipboards out? Yeah. So I'm extremely grumpy about that, and I let everybody know that on the floor.
Yeah, and I appreciated you doing that. That's why I brought that up. Yeah, and I think Bill Post did something similar, trying to get it back to the another committee.
Right.
So that it could be taken off.
Right.
My state representative.
I want to say Bill Post has done some good work. He actually had a bill that he sponsored, which is similar. It's a reciprocity bill, which says that if you can concealed carry in Oregon if the other state has a similar training requirements and will be reciprocal to us. So if another state were to have similar training requirements and to say that we can carry using our concealed carry permit in their state, then they can carry in our state. So that was a positive thing. It passed the House. I think it's on to the Senate now, but things look good for that bill. So I'm happy about that.
That's good. Of course, cynical me, I think the Second Amendment should be all the concealed carry we need.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
but that's just me.
No.
So what's coming up now that we need to be worried about in the legislature?
Well, let's see. There's some of the things. Most of them I think have to do with business. There things like the minimum wage bills are still alive. There's some paid sick leave things where employers will be forced to give paid sick leave to their employees. So there's some of those that are coming up. I'm trying to think of the, but I had to kind of switch my focus from the House to the Senate in the past couple of weeks. But yeah, so some of those kinds of things. And then one thing, let's not forget, is that we like to think of the legislature as doing a lot of policy, and we do a lot of policy there. But we also spend, you know, in our discretionary budget, $20 or so billion a year, and so that's a big deal. And that's the taxpayers' money. We need to take that seriously, that we spend that much money. And so I've been bearing down on budgets and ways and means. So.
You mentioned minimum wage. I thought Peter Courtney had stopped that one. Put a stop to it.
I'm honestly, I'm not sure on that. So yeah. It might be
maybe
that
we're going to do an initiative.
Yeah, or it might go to an initiative, or I don't think the bill's dead yet, though.
Oh.
So it might be in some committee where it could be revived. So we'll see.
So we'll keep an eye on it.
Or it might be there's a bill somewhere that has a relating to clause that could accommodate that. So
yeah, I've always been opposed to that gut and stuff, what they call the gut and stuff. Yeah, it doesn't seem honest.
Well, it can be used dishonestly. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll have several bills that will be similar, and so they'll want to combine them. And when they do that, they'll gut and stuff it. Another situation that comes up is they'll have a bill about some issue, and there won't be enough support to pass it. And so they'll have the two different sides or several different sides get together and come up with a compromise. And so they'll gut and stuff. So and then the other thing is sometimes they just have a bill that's just sitting there ready for if an issue comes up during the session. So just say relating to education, and then you can put whatever you want into it, and it'll just say the Higher Education Coordinating Committee shall do a study on the ways to do more effective education. That's just waiting to be gotten stuff, so that's the intention of the bill. But then it can be, like you said, it can be not always honest to do stuff like that. But it's just one of the things that they do.
So what other bills are coming up that we need to be concerned about?
Let's see. There's some that are kind of getting into the tall weeds about increasing the fees for lawyers working workers' comp claims. I don't know. There's just a few that are kind of in the tall weeds like that. There's we had the Department of Fish and Wildlife budget, which has been kind of they're kind of out of money, and you know, the people that are hunting and fishing has been declining over time, and so there needs to be some rethinking about what we do to fund that agency. I think that agency gets called on to do a lot of conservation work, and the people that want the conservation work done don't pay the fees, and so maybe we need to start getting them to pay the fees, and maybe they'll quit contributing to my opponents in my election. But,
sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I mean, they want it. Why shouldn't they pay for it? We have 4 minutes left. Is there anything more that we need to know about?
Well, you know, I think there's one other thing I want to talk about. Is there's a thing going around about campaign finance reform, and one of the things that gets talked about a lot, and these are constitutional issues too because they involve the Constitution, but is term limits. And you know, whenever I see these issues discussed, believe me, I get it. I understand why people are for term limits and why people are for campaign finance reform. But you know, I almost think that those two solutions, and then there's other similar solutions, but those kinds of solutions are not really getting at the heart of the problem. And I think truly what the heart of the problem is big government. Is because if government was small and government was effective and government was only doing those few things that we needed to have done, build a few roads, build bridges, you know, keep up a police force and prisons and education. If we're only small and effectively doing the things that we were having to do, then there wouldn't be the problems with the money sloshing around politics and all that as much. So I think those problems are are a function of big government, and the solutions are kind of band-aids on the problem. And I wish that people that spend a lot of time focusing on term limits or campaign finance reform would focus on keeping government small and effective, so that those things weren't a problem. So
yeah, because the bigger the government is, the more that people can profit from it, the
right.
more they're going to spend.
Exactly,
on it.
and the more power there is for government to wield over people, and so then the more people get involved and get money and all that. So if you have less money and less power in government, then you have less reason for people to go there and try to get their hooks into that money and power. So I think that small government is the answer to a lot of problems, and I'm doing my best to kind of keep things small, or at least move them to smaller. So.
Smaller, yeah. It's too late to keep it small, but yeah, maybe
always work in that direction. Huh?
You know, could offer. If I were to do an ad for my campaign, I would say my goal as a legislature would be to make the government smaller, more competent, and less corrupt. Mm-hmm. You notice I didn't say make it completely competent, and I didn't say completely honest, you know, because I don't think either of those is ever going to happen. But you could have it less than what it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could have more competency, and you could definitely have less corruption.
Yep, and if we were more competent, then we would have less corruption. I believe that. If it's has to do with the size of government, a lot of it.
Yeah, I agree.
And that takes you back to the very first point of the tax levy in Polk County, or any tax levy anywhere. You know, and it seems like, you know, I ask myself all the time too, is say, of all the things that government does, it seems like the things that always end up on the tax levies is the schools and the kids and the public safety and all the central functions of government always end up on there. But we don't ever say, hey, let's have a tax levy to pay the salaries of the county commissioners or something like that. That one never seems to show up.
Or the county administrator.
Yeah, the county administrator.
Yeah. No. I wonder why that is.
Yeah, I wonder why that is.
Okay, I thank you for coming on the program today.
Good. Thanks, Mike,
really
for having me.
Appreciate you and what work you're doing there at the legislature. And hopefully we can get our government back.
Good. And if any of you want to communicate with me, you can email me at rep.mikenearman@state.or.us. And if you can't follow that, you can look it up on the internet there on the OregonLegislature.gov website and find me and send me an email, and I'd be happy to hear from you and happy to send you an email back.
Yeah. Also, his office is on the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
On the house side of the Capitol. Stop by. You know, if you have something you want to say, tell the staff or him if he's there, or at least the staff. And we're out of time. And thank you.
Thanks, Mike.